and you cost somebody their life. So I hope you're proud of yourselves, and that's all. Thanks, fam. And now, I'm going to introduce the man himself, our good friend, and a spokesperson for white people everywhere, Mr. RichardSpencer. Thank you.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. Wow. This is a great greeting. I love you too. Thank you. Thank you for the welcome. Are you ready to talk, everyone? No? You want to scream more? Everyone, raise your hand if you're a student here at UF. Please raise your hand. Thank you for coming. Absolutely. Raise your hand if you're a member of the media, please, just to show who's here. They're not raising their hand. Raise your hand if you identify with the alt-right. Absolutely. Thank you for coming. But thank you to everyone who came. I would first like to thank the law enforcement officers and the administrators who worked with us tirelessly in many cases to create this event. Please give them a round of applause. And I would also like to thank President Fox, who understands the importance, ultimately, of free speech and the need for every university, including this one, to be a place for serious inquiry and true intellectual diversity. So thank you, President Fox. Wow. I love you too. Well, I'm not going home. So, I think it's probably in your interest to sit down and allow me to speak, and then we'll have a conversation afterward. What do you think about that? Well, I'll try to work through this. Are you going to keep this up all night? Are you? I don't think so. I'll ask again. You've sent your message. Why don't we have a conversation? What do you think about that? Do you not want to have a conversation? Do you not want to talk? You are all, each one of you, is at the you're at the premier event for the question of free speech in this country. You all know that. And this is how you behave. Nazis have no right to speech? Really? So you don't believe in free speech at all, do you? Really original, guys. Whom are you screaming at? What are you trying to achieve by this? You have an amazing opportunity to be in part of the most important free speech event, perhaps of our lifetime. This is where the rubber hits the road with the question of the First Amendment and free expression. This is where the rubber hits the road. Free speech is a meaningless concept if all it is about are people saying things that aren't controversial, talking to each other, saying things that are boring and lame. Free speech is only a question. It only has meaning when someone says something controversial, when someone's willing to stand up to a mob like you all who have gathered here, to be frank. You are attempting to turn your academic community into a stifling place. Do you think, is that what you want? Is that what you want? Do you want to go through your lives without questioning a single thing that's been taught to you from the day you entered preschool? You've said it. Now it's time for me to speak. I'll stand here all day if I have to. I'll simply give my speech while you're doing this. Why are we all here? Are any of you willing to think at all? I'm not going home. I will stand here all day if I have to. I'm not going home. Do you even know what that means, sir? Do you even know what that means to hold up a clenched fist? Or is this just some kind of cute thing you picked up at the bar? I'm not going anywhere. No. No. Why are you doing this if what I'm saying is so irrational and hateful? I don't understand. Could it be that within all of you that think you're so self-righteously correct, that within all of you is a hidden doubt about the system you're experiencing, a hidden doubt about a system that isn't just anti-white, but is actually against all identities, including yours if you're non-white in this audience. What do you think about that? I'm not trying to hide. That's a very stupid chant. At least do a chant that makes sense. I'm actually right here willing to talk to you. You aren't. I am speaking to you reasonably and rationally, and I am going to allow many of you to speak as well. You are not speaking. You are screaming and attempting to create a mob that is going to shut down free speech. I would have no respect for myself if I allowed this kind of behavior to pass. Are you adults? Are you adults? Are you? Are you ready to think for yourself? It doesn't look like it. You all look like immature preschoolers who aren't ready for ideas that might get a little challenging. Should I do a Q&A? I mean, I don't... Yeah, sure.
I want to thank all of you for this little display. Because when we were coming here, a lot of people said, you know, they're not going to be rational, they're not going to listen to you, they're going to behave like wild hyenas. Just like whenever any controversial speaker comes to a college campus, the students just behave like total animals, particularly the ones that have been totally incited and brainwashed by anti-white propaganda from their professors, from the media, from a variety of sources. And we were told, and we were like, no, we're going to go because we think that these students can be rational. We think that they can talk with us rationally, understand ideas, and have discourse. But, you know, you're proving them right. And on some level, I have to thank you because this right here, what you're doing, is the best recruiting tool for us that you could possibly ever give us. So I would like to thank all of you for showing exactly the kind of anti-white hate, suppression of rights, suppression of free speech that you all believe in, which is what we have been saying for years. And this is the best recruiting tool you could ever give us. So I want to thank you, and we're going to give you a few minutes to yell and scream, and we'll be back in a couple minutes. We'll just let you go. We'll sit here and watch. It'll be amusing. So let's go. I think we should. We're going to let you tucker yourselves out a little bit. Louder! Come on, louder! Let's go! Go home, Nazis! Go home! Come on, louder! Let's go! Let's type it up.
I have a question for white people at home that are watching this. Look at this room in front of us right now. It's full of many white allies, I would say, with black power salutes. I'm actually going to go ahead and retract my previous call to ban white people from serving in professorships or administration. I think white people should be banned from college completely. In fact, I think that subsidizing this sort of brainwashing and self-hatred is actually quite sick. So I would say to those white people that now think, okay, what do I do about it? What do I do about these anti-white, crazy people? I would say to you this, white person, stand up for yourself, join our movement, join our side, and get involved because we aren't going anywhere, and this is only helping us grow.
There's been an awakening, and I think all of you here have felt it. You have all heard that politics is being played in a new key, that Donald Trump brought a new existential quality to politics. It no longer was about some froofy policy. It no longer was about tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires. It was about the existence of this nation itself. No. That's why you are all here. You have all been given an amazing opportunity to take part in the most important free speech event of your lifetimes. And this is how you have responded. You have responded to become a cartoonish caricature of what people say about the left. You're worse than what most people say about the left. You are attempting to prevent people who are here to speak from speaking. That is all you are doing. Do not think that you're speaking truth to power. You're speaking truth to RichardSpencer. You aren't speaking truth to power. Have any of you engaged in this kind of vigorous protest against the, I don't know, war machine or military-industrial complex? Have you engaged in this, with this kind of vigor, against the parties that support these wars, that are leading this country into indebtedness and misery? You do this to someone who's speaking truthfully and speaking powerfully. You can't shut any of us up. All you are doing is engaging in meaningless and stupid moral signaling. You are. No one can hear you. The whole world is watching this. They don't hear anything you're saying. They do hear me, by the way. They don't hear anything you're saying. All they hear is a bunch of shrieking and grunting morons. That's not an argument. Do you want to talk about Seville? Sports ball. That's a real great use of your time. You guys are really just drinking in the opium of the masses pretty deeply there, guys. Nothing says committed leftists like supporting a football program. Congrats, guys. You're really impressing the world of this one. Please, sir, that's a very offensive gesture. I mean, please, put your hands down. I mean, we don't need any of that stuff here. Do you want to talk about Charlottesville? Don't you actually want to talk about that? Isn't that a fascinating subject? Charlottesville, too, was a major test of free speech. And something very important was revealed to us at Charlottesville. And that is that the civic authorities, Mike Steiner preeminently, are willing to use the power of the police force in order to stifle free speech. And the governor, too. We never even... I thank the University of Florida. I am actually getting a chance to speak. In Charlottesville, we didn't have that chance. A state of emergency was issued immediately on the morning of Saturday, August 23rd, I believe, or 13th. Before we could say a word, the Lee or Emancipation Park was cleared out, militarized police entered and forced us into Market Street. They forced us into people who, if it's possible, are even more childish and terrible than a lot of these people who are trying to stifle free speech. They are willing to use violence. They love it. They actively talk about it. That's how they define themselves. Are any of you like that? You want to shut down free speech? What's stopping you? What's stopping? Sorry, you're kind of funny. Have you ever thought of the absurdity of yelling this at me? I mean, let me try to get in the head of a committed leftist. I kind of was one, actually, at certain points in my life, although I never did anything like this. You're trying to shut down the speech of a dissident intellectual and youth leader and podcast web guy. You are trying to stifle our free speech. Do we have the power of the state on our side? Are we the ones, in terms of the left, there are actually a lot of things that I agree with you on. And I am saying that very genuinely. The origin of the alt-right came out of the anti-war movement. I started using that term as a way of differentiating myself from the W era of endless stupid wars for God knows what. In terms of other things as well, in terms of caring for the national world, we care about that too. But that's beside the point. You are yelling at a dissident intellectual. You are not yelling at the people in power. People who, I agree with you, are destroying this world. You aren't speaking truth to power. You are cowardly trying to shut down a movement that is growing, that's going to stand up for white people, that, to be honest, is going to stand up for the oppressed. It's going to stand up for some of the things that we actually have in common. The other thing that's sad about this is does anyone here identify with Black Lives Matter? Or you are African American? Sorry, white allies you don't count. According to their own poll, they actually hate you more than they hate me, literally. They did a poll, the Root did a poll. Whom do you hate more? George W. Bush, RichardSpencer, Andrew Anglin, white allies. White allies won! I will actually promise this to you, sir. I'll promise this to everyone who identifies with BLM and so on. If you actually want to have a real conversation about race, it starts right here. It starts with us. It doesn't include the phony conservatives. It doesn't include libertarians. It doesn't include liberals who, let me break you in on a little secret. White liberals don't actually care about you. For them, you're a prop. You're a mascot. I can tell that to you as a white person. If any of you want to actually have a real conversation about race, let's do it. This is your best opportunity. Let's do it right now. Apparently you don't. Apparently you don't. Two minutes in the new...
I'm going to get 2 minutes to talk to him. All y'all claim that y'all are for tolerance and equality. Will give us an equal chance to talk and have tolerance, or y'all are hypocrites. Y'all stand for nothing. Nothing. Y'all aren't tolerant. Y'all aren't equal. Y'all aren't anything. All y'all have been chanting the same 5 words for the last hour. Y'all aren't tolerant or equal. Go ahead and lose that terminology. Y'all are hypocrites. Hypocrites. Have a real conversation. If you think you can debunk his ideas, line up and debunk his ideas other than saying 5 words the whole time. Because all y'all are full of shit. Y'all have shown that the last 45 minutes. And I dare you to line up in a line and ask him questions and debate him. Because y'all are acting like animals, like the communist Antifa that y'all are.
We are going to try to do a Q&A. Do you think you all can ask questions? We're going to let you. We're going to let you, and I'm going to respond to them. Are you all ready? I'm not going anywhere. Are you ready, sir? Let's start with this person. Are you going to shout him down too?
I'll hold it. Okay, I'm not trying to forget. All right, so is this the point where I ask a question?
Yep.
Why do you think that you're welcome here when it literally took a court order to get you here? The only people who support you are the state. So why are you on that stage?
Okay, that's the next one.
We have tremendous amount of support. Oh. See, I'm sorry. This is so pathetic. You don't... Are you afraid I might say something? Are you afraid you might hear something you're not ready for? We have a tremendous amount of support around the country. You know, why this place, speakers do not come to the university out of some kind of ad hoc popularity contest among Antifa members who crowd into an auditorium. And by the way, I have been to universities very much like this one. Big institutions, football schools. They were sold out with students. I gave a speech, little bit of heckling, which is fine. And then we had a Q&A session and we really engaged. I imagine that all of you here, due to the amount of threats of violence, you have intimidated people who actually wanted to be here, who are actually serious people, unlike you. You are become, I feel sorry for you. Do you know how this is going to be read? Do you think this is going to be read as great victory for U of F? No. It's going to be read as the University of Florida is filled with childlike Antifa who shout at people as opposed to talking to them. You're applauding. That is really sad. Really sad.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
Hi. I'm going to try not to rile everyone up too much, but I genuinely have a question. So,
her down too. Is that it?
Hi. Okay, so my name is Jamie Bell. I'm a UF alumni. Hi, everyone. And I didn't expect to be able to get in here, but I'm glad I have the opportunity to ask a question. So, Mr. Spencer, you have a right to free speech, but the Supreme Court has decided that you don't have the right to incite violence. Now, you listen. Wait. Now, you might not directly say...
The Supreme Court didn't decide that. That's against the law, obviously.
Let me finish my question, please. So... I get it. You don't directly say kill black people, kill Jews, whatever, but your followers seem to take the idea of a white-only ethno-state to heart, and they are the ones going out and committing violent acts in your name and in the name of your movement. So my question is, how do you respond to people who feel that you should take responsibility for the actions of others, that your words appear
What are you referring to? Name a single incident. in which some alt-rightist went out and murdered someone.
Charlottesville, you organized that rally. People came with riot gear and someone died. And that was under the name of your movement. How do you not take
Absolutely.
responsibility for the actions of those people?
Absolutely not. What exactly happened with the death of Heather Heyer remains unclear. The fact is, there was a young man. Oh, it's my fault. You know, life doesn't work that way. That you can self-righteously say, it's your fault. And what, are they going to throw me into moral prison? That is just ridiculous. I have explicitly, not only do I not call for violence, I have explicitly called for peace and explicitly called for dialogue. And I came here to speak to you to actually have a conversation. In terms of what James Fields, the situation with Heather Heyer and James Fields, all I demand is that he receive a fair investigation and a fair trial, which I fear he may never get because he is used as a scapegoat. The fact is, his vehicle was attacked. His vehicle rammed into another vehicle mysteriously that rammed into other people. Then other people were injured as he was attempting to escape. This is a very strange method of committing murder. That doesn't mean that I'm assuming innocence. What I am assuming is that that is a very ambiguous situation and that he deserves justice. And justice is a fair investigation and a fair trial. The fact is, do you hold your Marxist professor to this same standard? The Antifa are engaged in violence. You are all engaged in a kind of violence, by the way, by attempting to suppress speech of people who are here peacefully. The Antifa engage in all sorts of nonsense and mayhem on a daily basis, whether it is threats or whether it is violence at Charlottesville, whether it's an attack on me, whether it's an attack on an average Trump supporter. They engage in all sorts of violence. Do you hold your professors to account? Oh, they might not have explicitly said we should attack RichardSpencer. But it was just a wink, wink, nod, nod. That's what they meant. Do you hold them to the same standard? No, you don't, and you shouldn't. You should hold to account the people who actually engage in violence, which is not me, which is not us. Call on me. Hey. You, sir.
Hi, could everybody who's right here up front just turn around and look at me real quick? No? Alright, well fuck you. And fuck you too.
Wow.
Good night, all.
That guy has a bright future ahead of him. I mean, really, if you're able to flick something off, I mean, just wait till...
Hey man, I don't have much time.
He might very well cure cancer.
I don't mean to cut you off. I don't have much time, but I got a question for you.
What? Can you just articulate, please?
Man, hold on, I'm not going to do anything. So, my question is to you, what are you still doing here? Haven't you realized that you've lost already before it's even begun?
Oh, really? How are you going to make me leave? I'm just curious.
I never said anything about making you leave. I asked a simple question.
Well,
I asked a simple question. You're telling me to articulate my words. I'm telling you to listen. My question was, what are you still doing here?
I guess perhaps I could ask
I don't perhaps nothing. What are you still doing here?
What am I still doing here? I am speaking. I am engaged in a dialogue. We have a scheduled event that you and your friends are attempting to violently disrupt.
I want to say this.
And I won't let you.
I'm going to say this. These aren't my friends. These are my friends. This is my community. These are my people.
Your community. This is an academic institution.
Why are you getting mad?
Your
Why are you getting mad? Why are you getting mad?
I'm
Why are you
sorry.
getting mad?
Lower your voice. I didn't yell at you.
This is not your community. This is an academic institution for free thought and inquiry.
Are you my
don't
community?
get
Am
to
I a part of you? Are you a
who
part of
speaks
us?
here. The community.
So I'll ask you one more time. What are you still doing here?
I'm speaking, and I'm not leaving. You.
Hello, Mr. Spencer. I have kind of two questions. I need to establish something first. First of all, do you support the creation of a white ethno-state?
Do you want me to answer them or ask two?
Okay.
I'll answer the question. I've given a speech on the ethno-state, so I think, spoiler alert, yes.
Okay, quick question about that then. In any area, there are people who are not white who have spent their entire lives working, trying to gain something for themselves and for their family, and to build a life, to build a home. People here in America who have immigrated from other countries. If we were to make America a white ethno-state, how can we ethically remove them and everything that they have worked for during their entire lives? I want an honest answer on this.
It's a reasonable question. Would you encourage your friends to actually be silent so I can answer it?
I would love to hear an answer. I would love to hear an answer. If your worldview is consistent, you can answer.
You can think of the ethno-state in two separate ways. Would you call on your friends to be quiet? So I will honestly answer this question.
Guys, if he's wrong, his answer will show that he's wrong. Let him speak. If he's wrong, his worldview is going to fall apart.
There are two kinds of ethno-states. The first kind is a kind of ethno-state that exists all over the world. In fact, the United States was effectively an ethno-state. One of the first pieces of major legislation, the 1790 Immigration Act, limited immigration to the United States to white people of good character. This country was effectively racially defined from the very beginning. It's nice to look back at some of the heady... I promise I will answer this. It's nice to look back on some of this language of all men are created equal and thinks that entails the entire world must come here. It simply did not. That 1790 Immigration Act was reiterated up until the second half of the 20th century. The 1924 Immigration Act, which led to an amazing half century of development, also defined America even more closely as a Nordic country. It was only in 1965 that we started to think of immigration as a way of changing the population dramatically. So America was an ethno-state. You should not forget that. Secondly, there are other ethno-states around the world. Poland is effectively an ethno-state. People who live there understand it doesn't need to be written in the law. Poland is for the Poles. It is for people of Polish descent or more or less Germanic and Slavic descent who are most all Catholics. That is a state for them. It is not a state for the entire world. Up until about 10 years ago, Sweden and other countries were more or less the same. The most important and perhaps most revolutionary ethno-state, and it's one that I turn to for guidance, even though I might not always agree with its foreign policy decisions, and that is the Jewish state of Israel, which is... You're booing? Okay. The Jewish state of Israel is not just another country in the Middle East. It is a country for Jews and a country for Jews around the world. And Jews around the world understand it as such. So these are the two things that I'll say. I acknowledge the moral legitimacy of ethno-states like Poland, like Hungary, like Russia, like all European countries up until very recently that want to maintain
their identity. They absolutely have a right to do it. Indeed, they have, there's a necessary injunction that they do this.
Okay.
I don't want the world to become an undifferentiated mass of individuals going shopping in a global market. I want there to be peoples. In terms of my concept of the ethno-state, which I've outlined, I've given a whole speech on it. That is a revolutionary concept. It would be a concept not just for Poles, for instance, but it would actually be for all white people, whether they're Slavs, Germans, Englishmen, Italians, Scots, American whites. It would be a new state for us, and it would be we would have a right of return. This state that I just outlined briefly does not exist. It's not going to exist tomorrow morning. It's probably not going to exist in my lifetime. But it is a kind of new idea, an ideal for the alt-right, for identitarians to have, much like Jews in the 19th century had an ideal of Zionism. So that is what I mean by ethno-state.
Okay, one other quick follow-up question to that. You say Poland is an example and that the Polish people have the right to their ancestral homeland. And I understand that everybody has a right.
Can you let him speak, please?
Yeah, I understand that everybody has a right to their own ancestral homeland. However, whites are not ancestral, we're not native to the United States. That doesn't mean that we don't belong here, but that means that this is not our ancestral homeland. So trying to create a white ethno-state in America just doesn't hold the same kind of water. It's not comparable to trying to create a white ethno-state in Poland.
I'm sorry, but what you're saying is simply historically ignorant. In terms of the movement of peoples, whether it is, you could call it migration, you could call it conquering. This has been going on since the Stone Age. Poland did not spring out of the ground. Poland was ultimately created. What we call Germany today ultimately derives from the Balkans, who created a Prussian state that eventually absorbed other statelets that were actually quite different. Things in this world are created, they're forged, they're created through will and power. And that just is what it is. We created the United States, and I'm referring to white people, white men in particular. And you all know that. You all think this country is racist, right?
Hey, let Mike do...
Sure.
Do I not get my question? Do I not get my question?
If they'll let you ask it.
Well, you can hear me regardless, so I can hear myself and you can hear me. As long as you can hear me, that's all that matters. My question is, you stated that you are against violence, that you are peaceful, that your message is a message of peace.
Yes.
How do you propose to extend that message of peace, yet also have a peaceful ethnic cleansing? My other question is, ethnic cleansing, peaceful ethnic cleansing. Now, do you propose this just for whites? How can you differentiate between, before you speak, let me finish. How can you differentiate? Because I have been quiet this whole time. I have not raised my voice at all. I've let you speak, and I came here to listen to you. So my other question is...
Well, do you want me to answer this one first?
How will you differentiate between different ethnicities? Because I look white. But to you, am I white? Am I white enough? What's the cutoff point?
We always get this one. All right, let me answer the first one first. Yeah, sure.
There's no such thing as white enough. I'm sorry. So, no, I want to answer that. No, but seriously, I'm going to answer this for a second, because that question of where's the cutoff point, what's the definition, that is a fundamental attack on our identity. That is an attack on white identity. You are trying to demoralize us, you are trying to undermine our self-confidence, and you are trying to stigmatize us. That question itself is an attack. I don't feel you're asking that question in good faith. I feel like you are doing that as a way of saying, fundamentally, who you are as a white person is illegitimate.
I asked RichardSpencer this question.
Well, I'm answering
I would like him to answer it. I came to hear him, not you. And I am not trying to start anything. I am simply here because I want to know where you, Mr. Spencer, stand. First of all, answer your question about the peaceful, ethnic cleansing, and how you propose to do that, and then how will you define who is white and who is not?
I have never called for peaceful ethnic cleansing. I was referring, if you go and listen to my speech in context, it's from 2013. I was referring to historical facts. That is, I was directly referring to the Paris Peace Conference of 1919, in which the liberal elite, by the way, led by Woodrow Wilson, literally redrew the map of Europe on the basis of national determination. Within that process, there was what you could call peaceful ethnic redistribution. New countries like Poland came into being. Our old countries came into being. New ones like Yugoslavia were invented effectively. It has been done. There are many examples of peaceful ethnic redistribution. We are watching that right now. It is happening on the news and social media before our eyes in terms of the migration crisis, in terms of millions of non-whites, Arabs, and Africans flowing into Germany. There is violence, no doubt. There is violence directed against mostly women, to be honest. There's violence directed against other people. But that is effectively peaceful redistribution of a population. It has been done previously. It is happening quite literally right now. That is what I was saying. Boo. Guys, just do something creative. Yes, sir.
Hello. Just a quick question. Given how ugly all of you guys are, why do you think white people are supreme?
Are you actually looking at me right now?
I do have eyes.
I don't quite know how to answer that one. And I'll pretend that you're acting in good faith. And I'll say that you, as a non-white person, you don't care for European standards of beauty. That's fine with me. I do. They're my people. To me, white people are truly beautiful and are worthy of being preserved. Perhaps they're not to you, that's fine. I'm not sure I find your people very attractive.
Hi.
Yes, ma'am.
So I did some research on some interviews by you before I came here because I wanted to know what your stances were.
Great.
You did mention in an interview once that you grew up in a multicultural mess of an environment, and I wanted to know what you meant by that. What were the parts of it that you felt were detrimental to society about it being multicultural, about it being diverse, and how do you think that that would improve in a more ethnocentric state?
Sure. I grew up as a young man in actually a little bit of a bubble. I might have not, maybe you misread or something like that. I grew up in the suburbs like a lot of other people. It was a very nice existence. I, like millions of other white people in their 20s and 30s now, have had a dramatically different lived experience than our parents. Our parents can remember peak America. They can remember the America of 50s diners and ice cream dates and drive-in movie theaters. They can remember a white America in the mid-century. We can't. We were born into something fundamentally different. We were born into a country inherently influenced by the 1965 Immigration Act. We were born into a country in which we are strangers in our own lands, in which we are effectively hated by the dominant institutions. That includes big business that does everything in its power to increase diversity, which simply means hiring fewer white people. That includes Hollywood, the government. All institutions have effectively been part of this process, what's called the Great Erasure. We have a different experience than our parents. In some ways, our parents don't get us and we don't get them. They can remember a white America that they think they can return to. We've never experienced that. We want something fundamentally new, the alt-right. We want identity in a way for the first time. We understand that the outcome of mass immigration and multiculturalism is not necessarily what all these people hope and dream it will be. Oh, we'll all be individuals. We'll forget about race. Color won't mean anything. No. In a way, white identity is heightened by the fact that we live in a multicultural world. We have a new, more intense, more powerful white identity precisely because we are under threat.
Hello, I believe we're both here because we believe in the freedom of speech.
Right.
Even the speech for idiots like you. But you're saying that you
I'll
have...
refrain from responding to that.
You say that you have memed the alt-right into existence, and you are funny, indeed. However, there's nothing new about what you're saying. There's nothing new about what you're saying. You can trace this directly back to the eugenics movement, to Spengler, ultimately back to Hegel.
Those people... Back to Hegel! Woo!
Back to
Wow,
Hegel.
we got a smart one.
Exactly. You're saying...
You're right. You can trace us back to Madison, Grant, Spengler, and Hegel. You get the alt-right better than your contemporaries. Those people are some of the greatest thinkers in world history. I would love to call them my influences.
German idealism.
What's your point? What philosophers do you like? Who's a great philosopher of liberalism?
I would say Jeffrey Tucker, but then you would call me a cuck. Exactly. You have no argument. You have no argument against libertarianism.
Literally, Jeffrey Tucker is some silly libertarian Catholic who thinks that Taco Bell is the greatest expression of Western civilization. I shit you not. I am not exaggerating. That is how debased and demented this man is. He thinks that the grossest aspects
that's not my question.
Capitalism.
This is not my question. You're not answering my question.
This is an expression of Western civilization.
You're not answering my question.
Taco Bell.
You're not providing an argument here.
Yeah, I don't need to on that one. You never gave me an argument. I have discussed or something. Like
you have discussed
Taco Bell.
You have discussed for a white person. I have a white identity that is not yours. I do not support your white identity.
Good.
Yes. Your race does not equal your culture.
You're halfway there, man. Just be patient.
How do you claim for speak to whites when people like me, who some might call white, disagree with you? Provide an argument to say that your one white idea is the white idea for everybody. You cannot.
I've never said that. I've described myself as a dissident intellectual. It's a weird thing. In fact, our own people are the ones putting up obstacles against us. This is the fate that we have. That doesn't mean that we're not going to do what we do. That doesn't mean we're not going to risk something. That doesn't mean that we're going to attempt, and we're successful at it, of awakening the better parts, the best parts of our people, to make them better than they are now. Ma'am?
Thank you for your time.
I'm so nervous.
Thank you.
Hello?
I love you too, ma'am. Thank you for that. Really, stop saying I love you. I mean, I love you too. Just calm down.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Spencer. I have a quite juvenile question, in fact. I just really want to know if you believe in these ideals that you proclaim. Because you say that your regime, I'm going to call it a regime because that's what it is. It's neo-Nazi, and that's literally what you are about. Yes. Your ideals are very your ideals are very similar to those of Hitler.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are. You're against everything that's not. Sir, excuse me. You're against everything that's not white. White is right, in your opinion. And you can't think like that. How is it?
I'm not against everything that's non-white.
Your
That's simply
race
false.
overtook this country.
There are plenty of things that are non-white that I actually
but
value.
listen, sir. You claim that your regime.
I also don't want to invade Poland.
Awesome. Sir, you claim that your regime doesn't.
I don't have a regime.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
But
Irregardless, the point is, you say that you don't promote violence. You don't do anything like that. However, your ideals evoke violence. Literally, your ideals evoke violence. Everything that is coming out your mouth has literally, in some way or another, caused a debate that has started violence, and that is because of you. I really want to know.
I'm a terrorist.
No, my question, sir. My question is, do you really believe the things that come out of your mouth?
Of course I do. I absolutely believe them. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now if I didn't believe them.
It's stupid.
What is your identity? Who are you?
I'm Jamaican, Puerto Rican, and for those who know, Jamaica was actually colonized by the British.
Yes, I do know that.
Right, by your race.
We did do that.
Like,
Yes.
are you kidding me?
People who have my last name probably actually even did it. Yes.
Okay, so how is it that you feel so strongly, like, above everyone? That's just like...
I don't feel strongly above everyone.
You do. You do. You do. And the opinions that you...
Look, if you could pick out something that I actually said, I know it's hard to hear it, but if you could pick out something I actually said and you would address that,
Sir,
we could have a
ethnic-
conversation.
the
I have
ethnic
never said,
cleansing.
hello,
ethnic
y'all,
cleansing.
I feel above everyone.
Sir,
I don't feel above
you don't-
everyone.
you
I've
don't
never
have
said
to say
anything
it.
like that in my life.
Sir, it's not about saying it. It's about just general
I
things
do
that you say
care
portray
about
that message.
my people first, just like I imagine you care about your people first. Do you ultimately love the world?
Sir.
Do you love every human being on earth the same? Do you love a stranger you've never met the same way you love your mother?
Do you love white strangers that you've never met the same way you love your mother? Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's like
I don't. That's my point.
Like,
I
what-
obviously love my family more than I love a stranger, even
but
a
you
white
said
person.
your race.
That's
You
my whole
literally
point.
said your race
What
comes
is
first.
race? Race is simply an extended family. Races evolve over time because there has been a tremendous amount of intermixing, interbreeding, intermarriage between lots of different individuals. Over the course of tens of thousands of years, we evolve into a coherent, extended family. Just like there are breeds of dogs, there are races. Just like there's species, there are races. What else is race but that?
Okay, so your ethnic... so your ethnic
the real
cleansing-
question is, do you care about a Puerto Rican just a little bit more than you care about a white person?
I'm very neutral. I care about all people. I have no discrimination in
that's
my
kind
blood.
of a cop-out.
How is that a cop-out? How is that a cop-out? Are you kidding me?
So there is a thing that happens when people say Black Lives Matter. And that is, a lot of times conservatives or people that oppose the Black Lives Matter movement say, no, Black lives don't matter, all lives matter. So all we are saying, and I actually, when that comes up, we side with the Black Lives Matter people, because what Black Lives Matter people say, when they say, no, not all lives matter, but Black Lives Matter, they're saying everybody exists, everybody has their issues, but we're talking about specifically black issues right now. That's what they mean. They consider the phrase all lives matter to be an attack on them, because it is. And all we're saying is that our lives matter too. White people matter, our identity matters, our race matters. That doesn't mean, if you interpret that as an attack on you, frankly that's your problem, because none of us ever said that. So when you say Black Lives Matter, and you're saying there's a particular issues that face black people, we have never countersignaled that. We have never fought against that. We don't care about that message at all. We don't fight against it. We just want to be able to say, white lives matter, our lives matter, and you can go ahead and think Black Lives Matter and deal with the issues pertaining to blacks all you want. That's fine. But we have our issues, and we simply want to communicate them, and this is the result. I mean, it's very interesting that we get this kind of reception when we're told white people rule everything. White people are so privileged. But all we want to do is come and talk about our identity, and we're met with this kind of reception. So frankly, it does feel like you are validating our point that white people are under attack and need to defend themselves in the public square, which is what we're doing. So I would actually like to thank you all for doing that, because the way this is going to be perceived by people that are watching this is going to be very favorable to us. So thank you very much. Anyway, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Hey, I've given about 20 interviews on your behalf today, so can I get a little longer question? My question basically is that I've been on Twitter, follow me at Fruit Society, and there's a lot of interreligious conflict on the right. The pagans versus the Protestants and the Catholics and the Orthodox. And I feel my question to you is really, how do we solve this interreligious conflict? Because I see it as by far the most divisive thing among the alt-right, and the thing that's really tearing us apart. And then I'm asking you, as the only supporter, to give you a question so far, is that how do we solve this? How do we unify under a more strictly political banner so that we can solve our goals more expediently?
That's a very deep question. The fact is, a lot of people in the alt-right or in conservatism or any identitarianism, they point towards Christianity as this essential unifier. And I understand where they're coming from. But the fact is, within European history, Christianity has actually been an extremely violently divisive factor as well. The fact is, half of Bohemia was effectively murdered viciously due to inter-Doctrarian wars that we don't even remember, we don't even understand anymore. These ideological, theological disputes. So Christianity can be something that unifies us. I don't think anyone in the alt-right would deny that Christianity deeply influenced the latter half of our history, of who we are and how we think. I am not a believer, but I am in a way Christian in the sense that I can't get away from that system that informs how I see the world.
Yeah, Spencer.
I don't think we can get to a better understanding simply by pretending it doesn't exist.
I feel that, like, among the alt-right, I feel that most of the opposition to you is from, very pan-racial Catholics and other religious groups that see your or deism, agnosticism as a way that they won't trust you as a leader.
Well, that's unfortunate for them.
I trust you. But Spencer, I trust you, but I'm just speaking for them.
I will reasonably talk to them,
behind you,
and I would never deny the importance of Christianity in European history. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Spencer. My name's Austin. Kind of going back on what he's saying, I have a question for you. Are you Christian? Are you Christian? Have you asked the Lord Jesus Christ into your heart and to live your life for Him?
I actually just did answer that. I'm not a believer. You could say I'm a skeptic. I was actually talking with a friend of mine recently, and I said I'm a kind of a tragic atheist. I don't think the world, like Richard Dawkins or someone like this, that the world is going to inherently become wonderful once we give up God. I think the death of God, you want to talk about as a phenomenon, cultural and social phenomenon, is actually a deeply tragic thing. I don't think we're simply better for it. I think it's a deeply tragic thing. So that is my honest and genuine response to you.
Okay. Well, here it says on Galatians 5:22 through 23, but the fruit of the Spirit is joy, love, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, and faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, and against such things there is no law. So
those are very good values.
Those things unify us, and what I don't want you to do is to
look, I'm going to have to give a little truth to you. I meet a lot of Christians like yourself who will cite Bible verses in order to show me why they aren't racist. The fact is, the vast majority of European Christians would be considered racist by contemporary standards. So all of those lines you can read, some of them seem to be deeply universalistic in character. There is no Greek, there's no Roman, there's no Jew, there's no man or woman. We are all one in Christ. Those kinds of lines effectively did not have any effect on the Romans who heard them, on millions of your ancestors who genuinely and authentically believed in Jesus Christ. So you can quote these scriptures. You could probably find some cool anti-racist lines from the Quran or Vishnu. But the fact is, race, you can't really separate. I agree. Race is, religion is embedded in who we are as a people. But this idea that you can simply cite a verse and then claim that this is why you're a universalist, it just doesn't make sense. This is something that only people of the last 2 decades actually believed in. It's pretty weak. Yes? No.
Okay, Mr. Spencer, for someone who says that he knows a lot about free speech, you really don't. So, free speech, first of all, is we are all allowed to voice our opinions, and the government cannot stop you. We, however, can voice over your opinions.
No.
We can speak over you and tell you that you are incorrect and that these things that you are saying are harmful to other people. The First Amendment allows us to do that.
You're wrong about that.
Okay, Then you tell me about the First Amendment.
Absolutely. The government does not have the right to censor a newspaper or anything like that. What
We do
you
not
are
have to
all
give you a
engaged
platform.
in is what is known as the heckler's veto. And the Supreme Court has been very clear on this, that public institutions must protect me from people like you who want to shut down my speech. This is one area in which the Supreme Court has been patently clear and which they are not going to change.
Fascism shouldn't be up for debate. We already did this in World War II.
That's a fascinating thing. So we debated by bombing Germany. Really? We debated on behalf of the Soviet Union, by the way, that was America's essential ally in that war. But I like how we already had this argument and we won. You literally won that argument by unifying with communists and using bullets and bombs. That's a very weird thing to say. I don't think you've thought it through. I think
you
you
don't
just
think
say
Germany
that without
deserved
thinking.
that for what they were doing to Jewish people, to gay people, to a lot of minorities? You
All right,
don't
that's totally irrelevant to what we're talking about here. Your initial question was about free speech and the First Amendment, and the idea that it's only the government that doesn't have the right to suppress speech. Well, that's just fundamentally wrong. That's actually, first of all, free speech is a culture. Free speech is a culture, and frankly, free speech is an artifact of white culture. Only in white countries is the very concept of free speech valued because it comes from European philosophy, from classical
Well, as a
liberalism.
white person with the power of free speech, I think that your ideas are wrong and harmful and that you should leave.
Okay, thank you very much. Very good. I'm sure you're very proud of yourself. But, that's your right to say that, and that's great. But also, I wanted to address the issue of harm. Now, the issue of harm is, this has not been, in U.S. law and in U.S. jurisprudence, this has never been considered a reason to shut down speech. Just the same way you're making people angry, you're hurting someone's feelings, someone's threatened violence. These are not legitimate reasons for speech to be shut down. And frankly, free speech in this country is valued. It is held sacred by the majority of the population, and this kind of behavior that you people are engaging in is not going to be looked on well by the rest of America. So again, I will extend a large thank you for making our point for us. Thanks.
A recent poll, 75% of Americans said they are willing to die for free speech. So your behavior is not going to go over very well. Yes, sir.
I'd like to start by thanking law enforcement and everybody for being here today in the sense of keeping everything safe and assuring that things don't get out of hand, as distasteful as I'm sure it is for the professional people who are here in a professional capacity. You just cited a statistic. I'm going to ask you if you have any other kind of statistic. You can just give a rough estimate. But how many white lives would you say the BLM movement is responsible for? Like, how many deaths would you say the Black Lives movement has?
BLM?
Black Lives Matter?
Well, the Dallas shooting it's a complicated question. I mean, the Dallas shooting was someone who openly identified with BLM. There were a number of people who perished there. I mean, look, I am able to separate activists from supporters who get out of hand. But there are certainly people who have died or had serious property damage.
What is the highest number you can provide that would fit the loosest set of categories?
Well, what's your point by this? I mean, I could come up with a number of. I would have to.
Sure.
What's your point?
Well, the point is, would it not be also fair to say that Adolf Hitler perhaps was responsible for more white deaths than anybody in recent history, and therefore wouldn't he be the single greatest threat to everything
Could you just repeat yourself? I didn't hear you.
I don't really follow orders. It's not something that I generally do. But in case other people haven't heard, I'm just going to say we have Adolf Hitler. A fair case can be made. His policies have led to the deaths of more white people. And I'm talking about white Germans, white Poles, white Russians
Okay,
write
that's a
French, write
fascinating
British.
historical argument.
And my question is, wouldn't
You could make
agree?
an argument, as others have, that
Wouldn't you agree
history
that
of
he's the
communism has led
greatest
to the death
threat?
of some 100 million people. These are historical facts. We can debate them. What is your
Sure.
point?
No, very simple. So you would agree that he was the greatest
Do you
recent
think
threat
that
to white...
Bolsheviks? Do you think the Bolsheviks are responsible for the death of 100 million people after the Russian Revolution? Bolsheviks were a particular people.
Yeah, okay, so I'm here to ask you questions. I'm not on the stage. I don't have any ideology that I'm trying to spread.
Yeah, you
I'm
can't
just
now
trying
claim you're a journalist. I ask the questions.
Do
you think that the state of Israel? How many deaths do you think the state of Israel has caused over the decades?
I've been living here since the 1800s.
Do
And
you support
this is
Israel as a Jewish state?
Again, I ask questions.
Why can't you answer that?
Because I'm not on the stage trying to spread ideology.
It doesn't work like that. You're
Sure
not.
it does.
I actually do
Sure it
get to
does.
ask you questions.
No, I do this for a living.
I don't know what rule you come up with.
No, I ask questions for a living.
So, okay,
and
I'll
then
just assume you don't support Israel
No,
as a Jewish state.
I am not making any kind of... I'm not answering questions.
So
This is not
I'll
why
just
I'm
assume
here.
that you condemn Israel. Is that right?
Why would you make any assumption? I clearly make that you
Because
should.
you won't answer
Don't
a
draw
simple
any-
question.
And I said I'm not here to answer any questions. And I'm being very consistent.
How many people is the state of Israel
I'm being
responsible
very
for?
consistent in not answering questions.
How many Arabs
But
has the state of Israel
Why would you? But why are you
killed over the
afraid?
years?
Why are you afraid to agree with the fact that Adolf Hitler his policies led to more deaths of
I
white
might
people
even
than anybody
agree
else?
with that historical statement. It's just irrelevant. Like you're making a historical argument, which is like a curiosity.
It might be irrelevant to the people protesting, but to you and to what you stand for, it's very relevant. Because you're concerned about the preservation of the white race.
Adolf Hitler. I mean, this is so stupid. You're just honestly, you're getting into some like arcane, like Talmudic reasoning that goes nowhere. I have to be honest with you.
Just because you're refusing to answer
kind
the
of
question
autistic.
doesn't mean it's not going anywhere.
What is your point by all that? I'm going to have to move on.
I'm trying to get clarification as to whether or not it is fair to say you feel Hitler.
What is the point of your question? The point of your question is that you think that if we say, oh, yeah, Hitler killed a lot of white people, which he did, somehow this invalidates our position. That's exactly what you're driving at. Do you think all the deaths that were created in the wars for the existence of the state of Israel invalidate Jewish identity or invalidate the right of the state of Israel to exist? Do you?
I'm going to remain very consistent and.
You don't answer questions. You don't answer questions. You don't want to have a conversation. You just want to engage
you ever go to
in a
McDonald's
gotcha.
and offer
All you
them
want to do,
from your
all
own
you
home?
want to do is engage in
You
gotcha
ever go to
reasoning to
McDonald's
try and get
and
us
brought
to
your
invalidate
house?
ourselves. That's what you're doing. We are not going to back down from white identity because of some historical gotcha question that you're conjuring up. It's not going to happen.
Would you walk into Pizza Hut and offer them your own pizza? That's not how it works.
Wait, did you say pizza? What?
Would you walk into Pizza Hut and say, here's pizza I made for my house, take it? I'm not
What?
here to answer questions.
Wait,
my
can we
job
move
is to
on? Can we
ask
move on?
questions.
Can we move on?
Absolutely.
What are you talking about, pizza?
I'm not sure why you're not understanding me. My question was, if you walk into Pizza Hut and you say, hey, instead of you guys making pizza for me, here's pizza I made, let me give it to you guys. This is what you're trying to do here. I'm working as a journalist asking a question, and you are trying to ask
next question.
Which
Next
doesn't
question.
work that way.
Seriously, guy.
Hello. Excuse me.
My head
nice to
hurts.
meet you. I'm Siraj.
Hi,
but-
Siraj.
Excuse me.
Let him speak.
All right, so I just wanted to give a little history about myself first. Both my parents were immigrants to this country. They've worked very hard to put me through the education I have now. And I'm very grateful for that. But I came to this event not knowing exactly what your platform was or, what everything was about. And from the media, I had every reason, and from my friends, to hate Richard Spencer. But I came in here with an open mind, wanting to learn something.
Good.
However, what I've learned at this event today was that the protesters were extremely rude and didn't allow him to speak. I just wanted to have a conversation and understand where Richard Spencer was coming from so I can think. Excuse me,
sir.
I used to be a Black Lives Matter. I used to be a Black Lives Matter fan. Not anymore. Not anymore. All I want to ask you now, Richard Spencer, is if I could have the chance to have a dialogue with you and be able to talk about my ideals and talk about your ideals. And if we don't agree, we don't agree. But this approach we're coming from, I don't agree with it.
I was about to suggest that myself. I have an email on my Twitter account. If you just go to the home page of my Twitter account, you can email my assistant. They'll get it to me.
Is there someone I can speak to here?
I will figure out a way to talk to you while I'm here. But thank you for saying what you said. I will definitely have a conversation with you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I would like to implore the police to make sure that gentleman is safe as he tries to exit the arena and make sure that he's not assaulted by anyone. I just want to put that out there. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Hey, these people in the corner, just like this guy said, like go ahead and talk. Oh, yeah. Y'all have been a disgrace to freedom of speech. You've been a disgrace to your university. You've been a disgrace to everybody here, no matter what ideology anybody stands for. You've been a disgrace to the Constitution. You've been a disgrace to American values. You've been a disgrace to a Democrat, a Libertarian, a Republican, no matter what. You've been a disgrace to everybody here, and you should be ashamed of yourself because you stand for nothing. Absolutely nothing. All you stand for is dyeing your hair red, shopping on Amazon, getting your nose rings, and making rude comments while regular people want to ask questions. And y'all should be ashamed of yourself because y'all are pieces of shit, to be very honest.
Unfortunately, there's going to have to be only one more question, and it is to this young woman because we've been alternating. I'm sorry, sir.
Okay. Hi, Mr. Dick Spencer.
Hello.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce myself as Iman El-Shahawi, and my ethnicity is Egyptian and Puerto Rican, and I am a beautiful brown woman here today. And I guess my question for you is, how did it feel to get punched in the face on camera?
It hurts. Yeah, it hurts when someone punches you in the face. Is that a real question?
Yeah, I really how bad did it hurt? Like, did you fuck up your jaw? Like,
No, not that bad.
No, did it hurt?
I was
All right.
fine, actually.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I mean, look, what's the point of such a question? Are you threatening me with violence? Are you indulging in violence directed against me? Are you? Do you all want to get your hands dirty? Are you really willing to do something like that, or do you just want to shout self-righteously?
Hey, excuse me, Egyptian, Puerto Rican woman that just asked the question. I have an answer for you, actually, from a third-person perspective. I was in D.C. the day that Richard got punched, and I witnessed Antifa burn a limousine, and I watched Antifa beat up friends of mine, and then subsequently hit Richard. And that day changed my life and changed hundreds of people who are white Americans' lives that day when they fundamentally realized that this country did not belong to us and that we were going to have to fight for what we believed in and fight for our people. That day, that punch, whatever hurt or pain it caused Richard, it caused an awakening in our people and our movement. And that's the exact reason we are here today, is because of that punch. So you can thank yourselves and all of your celebrations of violence for why we are here today, because we are fundamentally reacting to what you have said and done.
The fact that you're indulging in violence, do you think people deserve to have violence inflicted on them if you don't disagree with them? Is that what you're implying? We're actually going to have your question. I'm going to take one more question and then I'm going to wrap it up. Sir, you get it. What? I can't hear you. All right, we're just going to have to wrap it up. Look, I would still like to thank the University of Florida. I would like to thank the people who came here genuinely to have a serious dialogue that desperately needs to happen. I would like to thank members of the press who came, who have engaged me all week about this issue. And I would just like to say something. You think that you shut me down. Well, you didn't. You actually even failed at your own game. And in terms of the larger game you're playing, you failed even harder. Because the world is going to look at this event, and the world is going to have a very different impression of the University of Florida because you acted this way. And let me tell you, the world is not going to be proud of you. The world is going to think that this university is made up of children, and that is absolutely unfair because it is not. There are good people here who want to have a dialogue, who recognize the legitimacy of people who speak from the heart about their identity. Whether they're Puerto Rican, whether they're Indian, whether they're white. There are people at the university who are ashamed of these hecklers. But I am happy that I came here. I am happy to see this. I am glad the world saw this. And we will continue to fight. Absolutely. Continue to speak truth to power. Thank you very much.
All right, folks, we are going to now take you outside of the University of Florida. Looks like protesters continuing.
Nobody should be attacked like that. Hey, Sark. You guys doing all right? Doing all right. Staying safe? Trying to. God, look, could have been a lot worse. What was that about? Oh, just somebody guy put himself in the middle. Huh? All right. Yeah. Jinx it, but no, I'm not going to jinx it. Yeah, but it could have been. With this much law enforcement, I guess it's a great thing. Hey, you guys be safe, man. Thank you. had my back. Thank you. That was a good one. That was a good.
Dude kept stepping on my ankles and turning
good walk.
Dude.
Oh, really?
That was a good back walk.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna let you take that.
That
Oh,
was
look,
fun.
everybody's coming out. Oh, we just finished.
So if I stick my sign up, is that going to block it? You're fine. Don't worry about it. They left early.
Exactly, they're not letting me my word. Exactly, which is just. I honestly believe that either way.
I want again, you know. What's your reaction?
What?
Yes. I was out to find somebody from BBC.
We're willing to just stand up and not let him speak. It was great, actually.
What was it?
There was a lot of noise, a lot of just every time he spoke, speaking over.
Get nothing going on. Shut him down. I mean, he said his stuff, but
enjoy yourself.
I was part of the game, so that he good.
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter!
You want to talk to?
I'm with
Give me the microphone.
Happy birthday! Happy birthday! Happy birthday!
Yes. Okay, come over here so we're not Sorry, tell me your first and last name.
My first name is Isaac. My last name is Horowitz. Horowitz.
Are you a student here?
Yep, I'm a law student.
Okay, and you went inside.
Why did I go inside? To hear a speech.
Tell me about it. What was going on inside?
Yeah, I found the protesters to be extremely rude in the sense that they wouldn't allow him to speak. I didn't like his views, but I really wish that the protesters would have protested, but in a little bit more calmly a fashion. Yeah.
Did he get to speak?
He got to speak, but it was very difficult to hear what he was saying. I wanted to have a dialogue with him so I could publicly address why I disagree with what he's saying. I wanted to debate him on his views. It was difficult to do anything like that. It was difficult for anybody to speak to him because everyone was shouting so loud.
So did you get to ask any questions?
I personally didn't. So you had to leave before it was my turn. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, but RichardSpencer can catch these hands though. I'm serious.
Did you go in?
Yeah, I went in.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay, what's your first and last name?
Wallace Mazon.
Thank you. Last name?
M-A-Z-O-N.
Why did you go in and what did you think?
I went in because the ticket was free, honestly, and I wanted to see if people, that
that have that ideology, really exist. I mean, it's kind of like Santa Claus here. Some guy that crazy exists. So I went in there and
Give us a little bit of room, please. Let's go, folks. Back up, please. Back up. We need a little bit of room. Just a little bit of room.
Really, a little bit more.
Sorry. Okay, sorry. Tell me your, let me switch. Okay, sorry. Sorry, can you come over here? Thanks. I'm sorry.
okay, so I'm sorry.
Let me pick it back up. So again, your first and last name.
Wallace Maison.
And just tell me what you thought of the speech. What was going on inside?
Well, inside, he didn't really have a speech. We booed the entire time he was there. And then it went to question and answers, and some students had some thoughtful questions. And, every time, RichardSpencer basically opened his mouth, he got booed out of the room, basically. The whole time there was, peaceful protests inside. And it was good to see that many students not wanting to hear his hateful rhetoric. And then some of the things he touched on, he talked about, ethnic cleansing and things like that. And that crazy, I guess, ethno-state that he was.
Why did they squat that shit? Yeah, go
Watch the fuck out!
Hey, chill out. Come on, chill out, man. Chill out.
Don't even give them out. That's what they want. That's what they want. Hey! Keep separated. Hey! Black lives matter! 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 Black lives matter!
Get your buddy. Lay down. Hey, look. Push the shit out. We're getting straight. Dude, Tyler. It's fucking bad out there. We're not getting out of there without getting assaulted. Those cops are standing down. Cops are fucking standing down. Then they're literally shoving. Y'all didn't even arrest nobody. They're spraying people. You got the on here? Yeah, let him get. Please take him, man. Hey guys. Yeah. What just happened? They sprayed him. They started spraying the crowd with mace. They sprayed him too. They were spraying the girl, and he tried to get in front. Sometimes.
What? No, I want to just.
Hey, Will. Were you inside? Tyler. I don't want to leave this guy alone. He's fine. The police got him. What about it? What was it like? Well, it was a lot of kids crying. And crying? Yeah. Hey, look. Literally,
Y'all need to pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah, there's fucking violence over there. These dudes are fucking spray painting, throwing mace and hitting people. Why don't you go ask them?
They don't care what color y'all are.
That doesn't fit your narrative or what?
Hey,
what's there before?
How do we get out? I mean, you be on that side.
You can't get out.
Mark my words, nobody wants this violence. We're not starting it. We are not starting this. Look over there. Put your camera pointed down.
So we were out there, he got video of all of it, and then they pushed us back in.
Isn't UF backup free campus? Obviously, Germany was killing all the Jews. I'm kidding. I didn't think about that. I only got a lot of
You don't have any scheduled hits, right?
Right now, I haven't gotten any.
Yep.
We got some sound with all
We'll get you out that way.
All right, folks, we will continue to monitor this feed here for you, and if anything gets out of hand, of course, we will bring it back to you. Taking you out to now New Jersey. Former President Barack Obama on the campaign trail once again, this time for Pat Murphy for governor.
Are you fired up? Are you ready to go? Oh, it is good to be back in Jersey. It's good to be back in Newark. It is good to see all of you. I got a bunch of old friends there. I don't mean you look old. I'm saying we've known each other. I love you back. I do. So let me begin by first of all. Thank you. So, for him. I will refer you both to the Constitution as well as to Michelle Obama to explain why that will not happen. But we got 4 more years coming up right here in Jersey. I want to begin by thanking your mayor, our host, Ross Baraka, who's in the house. A couple of outstanding congressmen next to him, Congressman Pallone and Congressman Payne. Give it up. Oh, we got, you know what, this is what happens when you start, how many congressmen are here? Because I don't want to get them all in trouble.